Hey y'all, welcome back. My name is Jacqueline Gibson and I am a traditional astrologer. Today we're looking at Saturn and Neptune in Aries and how this transit will affect each of us according to our rising sign. So the conjunction of Saturn and Neptune, which occurs every 36 to 37 years, the last one was in 1989, is usually characterized by the blending of themes that are associated with both of these planets. So Saturn is usually like structure, authority, discipline. It's where we feel serious. It's sometimes authority figures or teachers. A transit of Saturn can also indicate like a time when we become a teacher to others. So we may seek teachers or we may actually become the teacher. Maybe our past experience is serving to inform other people. Neptune, on the other hand, is nothing like Saturn. Neptune is all about dreams and illusions and spirituality and idealism. Sometimes Neptune transits can be confusing. Oftentimes they bring up religion or they'll bring religion to the forefront. So could indicate a time when you feel focused on religion, your own religious goals, your personal religious goals. Could also be about your spiritual goals, your own spiritual pursuits, your own spiritual ideals. On a good day, a Neptune transit looks like my ideals are motivating me to take some kind of action. So it's the realization of a practical idea that I have, a practical inspiration that I have. On a bad day, Neptune is more delusional and can even be straight up dishonest. So sometimes these transits are about locating where we're deceiving ourselves, or where we might be deceiving others, or both. It might show where we lack inspiration, and it can show, things we might be inspired by that we've outgrown, things that just don't fit us anymore. So one of the things that we want to really focus on during any significant Neptune transit is to observe. Neptune's not really a take action now timing type of planet. And because of the potential for confusion, because of the potential for deception, we just want to really make sure that we are paying attention as closely as we can, like consciously taking inventory of what we're learning, what's changing. With any Aries transit, this is going to indicate like aggressive behavior. It can be just assertive, like just the motivation to assert myself, but that can tip over into being aggressive. Wherever Aries is in your chart, you've probably experienced both things. Sometimes on a good day, I'm feeling assertive in a healthy way. And other times I'm feeling frustrated in the Aries part of my chart. And that's when I'm starting to feel aggressive. Aries can also indicate where we feel competitive or combative and definitely impulsive. So on a good day, it's just energy that we're using to like have the passion and the motivation to get up and do a thing, whatever that thing is. On a bad day, it's I'm frustrated because I can't do this thing and I'm taking it out on something that's not relevant. That makes sense. So Saturn Neptune conjunctions, historically speaking, have been times of conflict, but there are also times of transformation. So the crux of this transit is that you have all of these things working together that don't really work together. Saturn is very patient, very methodical. Aries is very impulsive, driven, and Neptune is very like, let's take a nap or have a glass of wine or dream about it. So obviously, those three things, you put them together, this indicates a time of confusion. So what we want to look at to get through this with as much dignity and respect for ourselves as we can, as well as, remaining grounded in what's real. So we want to look at, where is this happening in my chart? And what am I doing about that? What am I doing with it? Am I overreacting, underreacting? And just remember to wherever this is in your chart, if it's looking like that, if it's looking like confusion between what is real, what is not, what is our shared reality, what is the truth, what is not the truth, whether that's outside in our society or inside our own homes, take a breath, observe. The best use of any Neptune transit is to observe. And then, because of the other planets, there is some kind of action involved there, but we want to feel like we've really seen the complete picture. So that's going to be the suggestion for this transit, especially during the most intense time when Neptune and Saturn are together. As Saturn drifts away or transits away, those two things are going to look more separate, like where I dream and where I make a plan. They'll be separate enough that I can not become confused by trying to do them both at the same time. That makes sense. So now we're going to look at where this transit is affecting you in your individual chart based on your rising sign. If you have Cancer rising, this transit is happening in your 10th house. And that has everything to do with like our career, our public persona, who we are for the rest of the world versus who we are when we're at home. And with the Saturn Neptune transit, your public persona is changing, likely pretty drastically. And that would have a lot to do with my personal boundaries, recognizing that my ideal for how I want to present myself in the world is not something that I'm feeling right now. Like, I don't feel like I'm there. And like, that might be in the spotlight for you right now, like where you might feel like you're falling short of what your own ideal is. So that's the time to just reassess, is my ideal working for me? Is it fair? You know, if my ideal is to be Batman, that's not realistic. And I know that's a drastic example, but just because I dream something doesn't mean that the dream is good for me. A lot of times dreams are just about escaping and avoiding my real potential. And the result of that could be that I fall short of what I could have been versus spending a lot of time trying to achieve a goal that probably wasn't, even when I really looked at it, real for me. I don't really have a goal to be Batman. I joke about that. So if I'm feeling bad about myself because I haven't achieved that goal, when it's not real, it's not true for me, then I'm feeling disappointed in myself without cause. And that's the kind of disappointment that can just like fester. And because I'm avoiding it. And if I just looked at it and realized, like, okay, well, all of this disappointment is over not achieving something that I don't even want. So there really isn't a reason for disappointment. And in that way, I can be free of it. On the other hand, we might find that a dream that was significant to us, that wasn't unrealistic, like I want to be Batman, but was realistic, isn't the right dream for me. And it's okay to feel some loss around that. But just because my dream is changing doesn't mean I failed at the old dream. It means more that what I've identified is that this was never my dream to begin with, for whatever reason. So it's a good time to look for mentors to help, guide in creating new goals. Those can be people, in your life, in your family, friends, people you've gone to in the past, or there may be somebody new in your life that provides that guidance. It might also be, a counselor of some kind. So whatever that looks like for you, you just want to be fair to yourself about whatever shifts are going on there. If you have Leo rising, this transit is happening in your ninth house. And the Saturn piece of this transit is indicating structure and tradition and rules where travel is concerned. And Neptune just really wants the dream of travel and none of that structure, rules, just wants to go. Your role in all of that is, how do you balance those things? Like, my dream might be to go to Italy and, hang out on the beach or eat pizza and, real Italian pizza, which is obviously one of my dreams. Or you may have a completely different dream, but this is about the steps, the practical steps that we take to get there. And it's also about recognizing, is this dream realistic? Is the timing for realizing this dream? Is it now? Maybe I'm planning a trip that I want to put off until next year, or until, maybe there's a little less tension involved in traveling. This could be more about like finance, like making sure that I'm not impulsively committing to, a dream vacation or a dream trip that, although it's perfect in the sense of it is my dream trip realized, maybe it's not perfect timing for me, either financially or because of whatever else I have going on. The ninth house can also be about higher learning, can be about our political perspective, can be about just like our belief system, which may or may not involve politics, may or may not involve religion. That's also in the ninth house, whatever our spiritual, personal beliefs are. So these might be changing for you right now. There might be something having to do with teachers or mentors or authority that is changing any of your worldview and your beliefs attached to your worldview. Or you might be changing some of your ideas about what you're pursuing in higher education. You might be changing, goals having to do with higher learning, whether that's, for your college or advanced degrees or specific trainings that apply to what you want to do with the rest of your life, whatever higher learning means to you. This can also be about becoming a teacher in some type of specialized field. So, in any of these areas, you're looking at the balance between what my dream is and what I can practically achieve right now, and accepting whatever the truth about the combination of those two things is, and using, again, that kind of sudden events around this area of your life, using that energy more in a way of being motivated towards something that's good for you rather than being impulsive and just jump now, look later. If you have Virgo rising, this transit is happening in your eighth house. The eighth house is all about shared resources. It can be about trauma or anxiety. It can be about inheritance, other people's money, and it can also be about intimacy with partners. So having the Saturn Neptune transit in your eighth house could be anything from decisions about what shared resources look like, setting boundaries in that area of your life. This can also look like shared debt or individual debt. So with other people's money, it's money that I borrowed and that maybe now I have to pay back. It's come time to pay it back. This might also look like an opportunity to use debt to make more money. Obviously, that's something that you want to be cautious of, not afraid, but make sure that you've dotted all your I's, crossed all your T's, that you've really looked into it, and that, you've kind of planned on. The thing with borrowing to make money is that if it doesn't work out, it's like two times the debt. So just making sure that you've covered all your bases there. And are you safe there, basically? This might also look like taking out debt for a partner, or paying off debts for a partner. In whatever area of your life this is pointing to, you want to just be clear about whatever your boundaries are and wherever you're being idealistic. Idealism in and of itself is not a bad thing unless it's not grounded in anything real. So if my ideals are just not possible in the time frame that I'm giving them, if I have an ideal that I will pay off $200,000 worth of debt when I don't, in 6 months, when I can't make that much money in 6 months, then that's like setting myself up to be disappointed in myself. And Neptune sometimes is feeling very sad, like that very deep, like depression sad. It doesn't indicate that, like, oh, you're going to feel this way the entire time that Neptune is in your eighth house. But it does indicate that you might have to face some of the things that really bring despair in your life. And if any of those things are financial, I mean, the good part of that is that we can make different decisions around our finances. Sometimes there are things that bring depression and despair that we don't have any control over. And in that case, the Saturn piece would be finding the appropriate mentor to help with, taking the steps to manage whatever those feelings are. Unfortunately, the first step is to just feel them. And there really isn't any escaping that. we want to be mindful of the Neptune tendency to escape from whatever the challenge is right now. You might also look for like appropriate mentors if we're talking about the borrowing or investing aspect of this transit. You might suddenly feel motivated to invest in something, to borrow against something, or to borrow a sum of money as an investment. Be aware of any mentors in your life that might be guiding you and what their motivations are, as well as, finding mentors that you trust to advise you on whatever this decision is. There's nothing in this that is inherently bad or like a trap that like you can't get out of. It's definitely going to have a bad outcome. It's not like that at all. It's just like indicating that impulsive behavior in these areas could bring sadness. It does not mean they have to. And that can also be about like all of those things that I said that could be you, could also be your partner if that applies in your life. So you want to be just aware of that. If that's something that your partner is going through, like we can help, we can support, but we can't always completely rescue. And if that's the case for you, you might be learning to be supportive without rescuing. If someone has something come up in their life, they're the ones that have to walk through it, but it's always okay for us to support. If you have Capricorn rising, the Saturn Neptune transit is happening in your fourth house. The fourth house is all about your home, your parents, your emotional home, like within yourself. This is my feeling of home. And it can also be about your actual physical home, that the home you live in, your apartment, your house, whatever that is for you. So Neptune can be indicating some places where you have ideals around what home means to you, or where you are idealistic about home. Can also be where you're idealistic about parents, whether that's your own parents, becoming a parent, the kind of parent that you are. This transit can be saying, what realistic ideals do I have in these areas? And where do I need to put like a more realistic tone to how I see myself or how I see these aspects of my life? Like I might have a dream of building a castle for myself, but in reality, I don't know how to build a castle, nor do I want to really put in the time to do something like that. Again, it's about asking yourself, is this realistic or is this me trying to escape something? Is this me trying to avoid something? If you find yourself, wanting to move or leaving an area, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But again, you just want to check in with yourself. Is this me running away, which could be good, but is there something I need to face first? Is there something I need to even, that could just be internal, like my reasons for leaving? Am I being completely honest with myself about my reasons for leaving the town, leaving the state, leaving the country, whatever place you might be moving to? This can also indicate shifts in your family dynamic, either that are coming from you or that are just happening as a result of other people. Sometimes that can just look like, people growing up, people getting married, people having children, that shifts the dynamics within our family. But for you, this might be, particularly difficult right now. Maybe a sibling you're very close to has gotten married or left to pursue some kind of career goal, or whatever the case may be. There's some type of shift there. The fact that the transit is perceived as a struggle to some degree doesn't mean that the thing that's happening is wrong or bad, or that we need to challenge it. It may be that the challenge is, how do I accept this, and what does that process look like for me? And am I taking good care of myself through it? Am I being honest with myself through it? If that makes sense. If you have Gemini rising, this transit is happening in your 11th house. 11th house is all about community and our group of friends, who our people are. This can be about like social networks. This can be about like networking within your chosen field. It just really indicates like the groups that you find yourself in most often or align yourself with. With this transit, you're looking at shifting dynamics within that area of your life. And it can also indicate friendships that are dissolving as new ones form. It can indicate that there are some friends you're finding you need to change up your boundaries with. That can be about what you share, and it can also be about what you're willing to listen to. And, sometimes people need to be told to stop and seek professional help around something that they're going through. And we don't have to say that in a cruel way. At the same time, we don't have to be used as any kind of counselor for, our friends. Even if you are a counselor as your chosen profession, that doesn't indicate that you have to be that for everyone. It does mean that you can be, an inspiration to people as far as like normalizing that process. For a lot of people, seeking professional counsel is terrifying, and it means that you're crazy, and all of these stereotypes that are not true today, but probably never were. But if you are in some type of professional counseling field rather than counsel your friends, you could be kind of a voice of reason around seeking counsel. On the flip side of that, you might have some kind of experience that serves as counsel for somebody. Like you may have gone through something that someone in your social group is going through, and you might be able to share that experience and kind of help shift things for them. That doesn't mean that this transit is about finding people to rescue. It just means if that comes up, that might be your place. As with this transit in any other house, it's definitely suggested to observe before acting rather than act impulsively, but that doesn't mean don't act at all. It's not a warning against taking action, it's a warning against taking impulsive action that could turn around and bite you later. So that might look like ending friendships that have ties to other people that maybe you hadn't thought of. And that, again, doesn't mean that that friendship doesn't need to be ended. It just means that the best way to do it is to have accepted what ending that friendship is going to look like moving forward for you, potentially. If you have Sagittarius rising, this transit is happening in your fifth house, and the fifth house is all about fun. Really, it's fun things, it's romance, it's joy, it's what I enjoy doing. When you bring a challenging transit to that area of your life, or I mean, it's not like we choose it, but when that happens, this can indicate going overboard in some type of activity that brings you joy. So, obviously, that can look like addictions, choosing romantic partners that might not be good for you, or letting go of romantic partners that are good for you. Gambling and like financial speculation are also indicated in this house. So we want to just be cautious about impulsive decisions around like risky investment choices. Investments don't really belong in the fifth house. And when we find them there, they're more like gambling. If that makes sense. Like I'm making uninformed choices with my money, and it's like, wee, that's like a fifth house money thing, but that's not usually a good idea. Again, it's not that every impulse is bad. It's that we just want to be really cautious about when we act on it. Did we think things through? And, did we gather all the information before we actually took action? Information sometimes comes to you suddenly. That doesn't mean you have to act on it suddenly. We also just want to be like cautious about your romantic life. This house also rules children. So if this is something that's indicating your relationships with your children, you want to just, again, be mindful, take steps back. You don't want to make impulsive decisions where your kids are concerned, wherever you can help that. If you have Taurus rising, this transit is happening in your 12th house. Your 12th house is often where we see the details of how we sabotage ourselves, as well as what sabotage from others might look like in our lives. So this transit could be bringing up some self-defeating patterns that you might have, or self-defeating behaviors that are coming to the surface at this time, to not just to like beat you over the head, but to be like, hey, I'm here, I exist, I'm doing this to you on a slightly louder scale so that you can see me and do something about this happening continuously. Sometimes when we're having smaller transits, like we just start to like to a house that's a little more challenging, we might just start to like accept that that's just what happens. And there might be something that we can do about it. Like that might indicate a person who, has like overstayed their welcome in your life and maybe talks a lot of smack about you behind your back and just make things difficult. And you might suddenly ask yourself, why do I even have this person in my life? Like I said, or it could be about, things that are self defeating behaviors that I'm engaging in that are showing up in a bigger way, saying, hey, do something about me. This doesn't have to be a thing. Like if I'm someone who procrastinates, or if I am someone who avoids a certain area of my life, like repeatedly, and I'm seeing that the effects of that are negative, then that's something that, this is a good time to notice it, observe it, and recognize how you might be able to change that. A lot of times during 12th house transits, we find it's like finding your spirituality through quiet and through not isolation, like an unhealthy isolation, but through being comfortable spending time by myself. That could be, it doesn't have to be like sitting in like perfect meditation for hours and hours a day. It could be, time that I spent alone reading, time that I spent alone, taking like an at home class that was more, focused towards my own benefit, like learning how to do something that helps me to engage creatively in a way that I hadn't before, or that helps me to organize my life in a way that brings me some peace on a daily basis. Whatever it looks like, this could be a good time if you're feeling really overextended or anxious or just like a too much kind of feeling that's almost restrictive. This could be a good time to like take a break if you can and just spend some time alone. That can also be like going somewhere if that's something you're able to do. Go on a retreat, go on whatever a retreat is to you. For me, like going hiking for the afternoon is a retreat, and being able to do that, once a week for a while can change a lot in my perspective. So if that's true for you, it might be something like that, or, just whatever you can do to feel grounded, whatever grounds you. That might be something that you can use to kind of help whatever needs to be worked out in that other area as far as self-sabotage, or I don't want to say just allowing others to sabotage us, because that's not always the case. Sometimes I had no idea that was coming, and someone intentionally does something to harm us. That happens. In that case, it might be about setting boundaries with, a person who's done that before, or a person who's done that recently. But it can also be about giving ourselves the time to accept what's happened, to like feel the feelings and let them go, versus just avoid how I feel about that. Maybe that hurt, and I'm pretending, like not even necessarily to others, but to myself. I'm just like, oh, I'm fine. And I'm not really fine. I'm lying about that. So maybe this is about taking that time to accept any difficult feelings that might have come up from events happening now or happening recently. If you have Aries rising, this transit is likely bringing up a personal transformation of some kind for you. And this could be the image that you present to other people, and it can also be your image of yourself. You may experience some internal conflict in this area of your life, like, who am I? And you may feel conflicted in some way about that, who I ideally want to become versus like the reality of where I'm at now, and feeling at odds with that. Maybe because you want to be further along than you are, or maybe because you're not satisfied with the way things are going, but some type of conflict having to do with how you see yourself and where you want to be versus where you are. You want to be mindful of any kind of impulsive actions, hasty decisions that you, like if you make a fast decision and then you're immediately acting on it, just make sure that's a decision that's actually right for you. Make sure that you've at least taken enough time to really take it in, to ask yourself if this is what you really want and this is what's really best for you. or is this an impulsive action that I'm taking as some kind of avoidance? Neptune often provides paths for avoidance, and they may look inspired, but in reality, it's just I feel free because I'm not doing the thing that is really important to me. So just watch for that. Often a transit like this can bring, especially one through your first house, can bring just life events because our first house is us. It's definitely my image of myself and the way others see me, but it's also just my environment and things that are going on. So this may feel like something that's happening in your environment that's affecting you. Whatever that is, it is providing an opportunity for significant change. So you do want to pay attention to it. It's not just about being avoided. That said, if it's about building a boundary, a healthy boundary for yourself, if this is a chaotic event in your personal environment, setting new boundaries might be what this transit is indicating for you. And setting boundaries is an avoidance. Avoidance is pretending no boundary needs to be set. Just make sure during this time, whatever actions that you're taking that are inspired by this transit, that they actually align with you, that this is really what you want. If you have Aquarius rising, this transit is happening in your third house. The third house is all about communication. That's internal communication as well as what we express to others. This can be written communication. And again, that can be written communication that we receive as well as that we put out into the world. Third house transits can also be about close community and siblings, sibling relationships, cousins, people who are like your brother, like your sister. If you have any people like that in your life, this could also be about them. So, on a positive side, you may feel motivated towards creative pursuits to be more creative in the way that you communicate or in what you put out into the world. On a more negative side, that motivation, when it feels blocked, can result in just frustration and outbursts. So if you find yourself in moments of frustration, that you're having outbursts that are unlike you, that could indicate that you're feeling blocked creatively in some way, that there's something that you want to communicate to someone or something that you want to accept for yourself that just isn't getting through in some way. You could also know what it is that you want to say and not feel like it's been received in the way that you meant it or in the way that you're trying to communicate it, and that can be incredibly frustrating. So if that's what that looks like for you, escalating the outburst is probably not the way to go. That's probably something that in the later months when these planets return back to Pisces, that would be your time for, seeking forgiveness and mending whatever damage that's caused. So rather than do that, if you can, you want to try to again use the observation piece of any Neptune transit and try to get a whole picture and ask yourself, like, how important is it that I be understood by this person? Sometimes that's very important. Sometimes it's a very significant relationship. But do I have to be like understood right now? Is it imperative that this happen on my timeline, or can I give this other person some time to understand what I've said? Can I step back and let what I've said sink in with this other person and check in with them later? And maybe even communicate that, like, look, I've said enough. Let's come back to this in a day or two or in a week or so, depending on what that relationship is and how often that person is in your life. And this could be a time for you where you really learn to, like, perfect that art, where here's what I have to say, and if what the feedback that I receive is not what I was expecting or not satisfying to me in some way, like I just don't feel heard, maybe practicing like what I can do about that doesn't escalate and just really push that person even further away from understanding, if that makes sense. If you have Scorpio rising, this transit is happening in your sixth house, and the sixth house is about your health routines, your physical health, can also affect your mental health. This transit is going to look like Do you have an idealistic version of what your health should be, what your daily routine should look like, or what your work life is like? This can also be about your pets. It can be about people who work for you, or it can be about people you work with. So, like your work environment. And as far as people who work with you, that can be the person who watches your dogs. That can be the person who cleans your house. That can be, someone who does your hair, does your nails, any of those kind of, it doesn't mean that you have like an actual list of employees that work for you, if that makes sense. It doesn't necessarily have to be like regular interaction with employees, can be a one-time thing. So we're looking for, where are we being unrealistic in our expectations in those areas of our lives, and maybe also where we might not be honest with ourselves. That can look like negativity too, where, oh, I'll never be healthy. There's nothing I can do about it, when maybe there is something I can do about it. So we want to balance like acceptance where I'm at right now, acceptance of myself, no matter, none of us are in a perfect state of health 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for our entire lives. We all get sick, we all get tired. There's always something different that we might need to pay more attention to. And then you'll have times when, everything is fine. And that varies from person to person, obviously. But what we're looking for is, where am I being unrealistic with myself about what my physical health should look like, what my relationship with my coworkers or people who work for me from time to time or all the time, where am I unrealistic in my expectations there? Where might I need to put in some personal boundaries with other people and even with myself? If I see that my expectations for what my physical health should look like are not fair to me, that it puts me on a schedule that's not healthy, it's manic or obsessive. That's not a health routine. That's using a health routine to make myself sick. Probably not the best goal. So we just want to identify where we could apply structure or take some structure out. Like if I have made myself this insane workout routine or diet regimen, or I have determined that I will never talk to another coworker again outside of work, like maybe there's somebody in my environment that it would be a good idea to, explore having a friendship with, or maybe there are places in my daily routine where a little less structure might be good. And then obviously the opposite can be true. Maybe my daily routine is all over the place and that's driving me crazy. This could be a good time to, set some weekly goals, to put some structure into my daily routine so that I don't feel like I'm scattered all the time, so that I don't feel confused about what's next. Establishing a routine is a good idea. Again, unless we're the kind of person who has so much routine that the routine itself is driving us crazy. If you have Libra rising, this transit is happening in your seventh house. The seventh house is about our partnerships. So this could actually be something that your partner is going through, having to do with boundaries versus, dreams and ideals and illusions. But this could also be about your own personal boundaries with your partner. So if you feel like your partner isn't aware of or doesn't respect your boundaries, this could be a good time to communicate those boundaries, or to even ask yourself what boundaries you want to be in place. Sometimes we feel drained by a partnership, but it's not that that person is stepping on our boundaries, it's that we aren't really clear about what our own boundaries are. So identifying, where are you on that scale? Have I communicated my boundaries and my partner's just not listening? Or do I not communicate boundaries, and when I stop to think about it, I'm not really clear about what they are myself? Wherever you fall on that, that would be where you'd want to put in some work. Use the Aries energy to kind of, this time of really feeling focused on that and motivated towards having that be more suitable for you. The dynamic between you and your partner, or the way that you communicate boundaries to your partner. It's a good time to clear that up, clear the air about that. And it's likely that that will be motivated by a lot of confusion in that area of your life. So if you see that, it's not necessarily something to be afraid of or to like doom or dread, that this is the way it's always going to be. The confusion has like been amplified so that we can see, oh, okay, this is something that I need to work on right now. It's not like there's no coming back. And obviously, if this is a situation where you have expressed your boundaries and you are clear about what they are and you're not being respected where that's concerned, then that might be something that, as far as where the delusion is coming in, is the idea that, even though I've said it 100 times, I'm sure that it's going to be like 101 or 103 that, it's really going to get through. Is that true? I don't know. I'm not in your situation, but that might be something that you want to ask yourself. Is that realistic? Is that likely? This is also a time to be cautious of or aware of any kind of escapist tendencies. So, do I avoid when a boundary needs to be set? Do I avoid other people's boundaries? Whatever that might look like for you, avoidance is not the solution to whatever this transit is indicating for you. That doesn't mean that we're stuck or we're imprisoned in whatever circumstances it's pointing to. It just means we have to be, avoidance just means I'm not facing it and leaving. Sometimes I face something and the decision is, yeah, I definitely got to go. Like, this is something that I can't have in my life. If that's the case for you, that's not avoiding, that's facing it and making a decision. So just being clear within ourselves about which one we're doing and being sure of that. That would be the suggestion for whatever this transit's bringing up in your relationship life. If you have Pisces rising, this transit is happening in your second house. Your second house is all about your finances, your stuff, your valuables. It can also be your attitude towards finance, your attitude towards money, and what money looks like in your actual reality in your life. So during this time, it's likely that you're going through like a significant change in the way that you see money or the way that you see your things. You might value things differently. You might find yourself valuing different things. Like if at one time you really valued structure and foundations, you might find yourself now feeling like freedom is the most important thing and that's where you want your money to go. So it's likely that like a part of you is wanting like a structured, traditional approach to your finances. And another part of you just wants the dream version of what you want your finances to be. And so blending that would look like an acceptance of what my financial situation is while taking practical steps to get to whatever the goal is, whatever I aspire my financial situation to be, and a realistic approach to that. Generally speaking, impulsive decisions around finance are not the greatest idea. If you are feeling inspired towards an impulsive decision regarding your money or your things, like I'm going to sell my things and move out of the country, that might be a great idea. There might be a property that you want to purchase, and that might be the great idea. But anything that has come to you suddenly that wasn't something that you've always thought of, this is like a new plan, doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means you want to watch for, really, it would be indicated by like an escapist thing. Like if all of your life you've wanted to own a home, all of a sudden, and maybe you're halfway there, and all of a sudden you've just decided ditch everything and fly to Jamaica instead and live on a beach. That could be a really good plan. Is the one that you are making practical? Does that make sense? It's not like that ditching the dream of buying a house and, living on a beach in Jamaica is a bad idea. It just means, have you looked into it? What does this actually look like? You don't want to like fly off the handle and just do that. That might be an inspired idea. That might be great for you. That might be exactly what you're supposed to do. But you'll find out if that's the truth by looking into the details. You don't want to jump on a plane first and then find out it's not the right thing for you after, if that makes sense. So that's it for this Saturn Neptune transit in Aries update. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss an update. Share your experiences related to the Saturn Neptune transit in the comments below. Share them with each other, share them with me. I love to see them. Until next time, stay grounded and take really good care of you.